This is the second video in the series of fundamentals of lesson planning. The focus is functions of lesson planning. First of all, can you complete the following sentence in your own words? A lesson plan is. I suppose a lesson plan can be in various forms, like a written document, a short note, or even some bullet points. But it is definitely important to all teachers. In this lecture, we will go through three main parts: definition of a lesson plan, components of a lesson plan, and absolutely its functions. There is a variety of definitions of a lesson plan. I will soon show you some definitions, but when you read them, please think about two questions here. Which definitions is or are the most appropriate for teachers of English? Why? Which definitions is or are not appropriate for teachers of English? Why not? Let's go to the definitions themselves. On the screen are some definitions of a lesson plan. Number 1. A lesson plan is a written description of how students will move toward attaining specific objectives. It describes the teaching behavior that will result in students' learning. Number 2. A lesson plan is a written document which helps the teacher to know what to do in a class, prepared by themselves, with quite specific activities. Number 3. Lesson plans are systematic records of a teacher's thoughts about what will be covered during a lesson. Number 4. A lesson plan is a written document used in planning a presentation. Which one do you think is the most appropriate, or which one is the least? As for me, definition number 4 is the least suitable because teaching is much more than a presentation. Imagine starting a journey but with no idea where you are going. You are the driver of a bus full of students, and although you know you have to drive them for a particular period of time, without your map you have no idea where you want to go or how to get there. Here are some more reasons why it is essential to plan. Planning helps the teacher identify the aims as a navigation tool for the lesson. Planning is a sign of professionalism. Students expect teachers to be professional. If you are prepared, the students can tell. They also know if you are not prepared. Planning is a way to help gain the respect of your students. By planning, you are considering your teaching situation and your particular students. As we have seen, lessons need to have certain elements and features such as ESA, engage, study, activate. Planning encourages teachers to consider these points and ensure they are included in the lesson. Planning gives the teacher a chance to predict possible problems in the class and think about ways to deal with them. So, what constitutes a lesson plan? There are mainly 8 components of a lesson plan, as you can see in the sample. In the objective section of your lesson plan, write precise and delineated goals for what you want your student to be able to accomplish after the lesson is completed. In the anticipatory section, you outline what you will say and/or present to your students before the direct instruction of the lesson begins. Direct instruction is how you will deliver the lesson information to your students. Your methods of direct instruction could include reading a book, displaying diagrams, showing real-life examples of the subject matter, using props, discussing relevant characteristics, watching a video, or other hands-on and/or presentational steps directly related to your lesson plan stated objective. Before you move on to the next part, check for understanding to ensure that your students are ready to practice the skills and concepts you have presented to them. In the guided practice section of your written lesson plan, outline how your students will demonstrate that they have grasped the skills, concepts, and modeling that you presented to them in the direct instruction portion of the lesson. While you circulate the classroom and provide some persistence for a given activity, the students should be able to perform the task and be held accountable for the lesson's information. The closure is the time when you wrap up a lesson plan and help students organize the information in a meaningful context in their minds. A brief summary or an overview is often appropriate. Another helpful activity is to engage students in a quick discussion about what exactly they learned and what it means to them now. Through independent practice, students have a chance to reinforce skills and synthesize their new knowledge by completing a task on their own and away from the teacher's guidance. It is the part of the lesson where students are given the opportunity to practice what they have just learned. Here, you determine what supplies are required to help the students achieve the stated lesson plan objectives. The required material section will not be presented to students directly, but rather is written for the teacher's own reference and as a checklist before starting the lesson. The lesson doesn't end after your students complete a worksheet. The assessment section is one of the most important parts of all. This is where you assess the final outcome of the lesson and to what extent the learning objectives were achieved. To sum up, we've talked about definition, importance, and 8 components of a lesson plan. See you in the next lesson.